Lamont Roach has got to be one of the most unlucky fighters in the sport of boxing. After the majority decision draw he got against Gervonta Davis earlier this year, we'd all been waiting and hoping for that rematch, because for sure Roach should have got the decision there. I mean, take away the fact that it was pretty close, don't get me wrong, it was a close-ish fight. But take away the fact it was close on the scorecards at all, he didn't even get the knockdown scored in his favour when Gervonta Davis just decided to randomly go and touch down. We all remember what happened in that fight. We know that Roach was incredibly unlucky. Gervonta Davis went off, tried to get that Jake Paul fight instead for absolutely loads of cash, prioritising the bank balance over the legacy, over what you'd say is right and fair to Lamont Roach to give him that rematch. Not that you would put right and fair in the same sentence as Gervonta Davis's name ever, really. But regardless, you say, you know, this is a guy who got very unlucky. And he came back here in this fight against Pitbull Cruz, making his debut at 140 pounds for the WBC interim super lightweight title. And again, he has got a majority draw in this fight. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down for you how this fight played out, the tweaks and tactical adjustments that were made, how it was a fight very much of two halves in my opinion, and why I think Lamont Roach can consider himself to be incredibly unlucky here. Hello everyone, and welcome back to A Guy Called Henry. I hope you're all doing incredibly well. Just before I jump into this one, don't forget to smash a like on the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. Get your comment in the comment section below. Who do you think won this fight between Roach and Cruz? And finally, guys, I haven't plugged it for a little while, but I'm doing channel memberships. I'd love it if you could become a member. It helps to support the channel. It's only a couple of quid or bucks a month, whatever country you're in. Gets you a few little perks, but really helps to drive this community and this channel forward. Now, as I say, coming into this fight, Lamont Roach was looking for a statement win up in a new weight class. His name was really put on the map by that draw with Gervonta Davis, as I mentioned before. Everybody wanted that rematch. We didn't get that rematch, but we got a great fight instead in this fight against Cruz. Cruz himself had lost at the hands of Gervonta Davis back in 2021. And since his split decision loss against Jose Valenzuela, he was looking to stay active and try and win his third fight of 2025. And look, I think coming into this, everyone knew that they were pretty well matched, but most people I think had Roach as the favourite. Certainly, he was the betting favourite, with Cruz being the underdog. And with good reason. Stylistically, it was a very, very nice matchup. Now, I didn't have time to sit and predict and analyse this fight before it came. I was away, I was very busy with work this week, unfortunately. And I didn't really want to commit to making a prediction without seeing more first. Because even though I know that Roach is a great counterpuncher, I know that the way Cruz fights keeps you incredibly honest. He's much more aggressive on the front foot than a Gervonta Davis is, for example. And whilst I think Lamont Roach is an absolutely excellent boxer, I just needed to see what that would look like against a fighter with a higher output like a Cruz. And early on in this fight, I'd say for the first half of the fight roughly, it looked like he might struggle a little with it. I was never worried about Lamont Roach during this contest. You know, he was never really in any trouble or any danger aside from the knockdown early on in the fight. But even when I felt Cruz was winning rounds, I still felt that Lamont Roach was finding his range, was finding his timing, and he clearly had the reach, he clearly had the size, and he had the athletic legs and movement to get himself out of trouble. I'll give you my scorecard in a moment, but basically the way I saw the first half of the fight was Cruz on the front foot, forcing the issue, Lamont Roach not quite finding his timing consistently. He was landing shots. He was certainly involved in what were very competitive rounds, but I felt Cruz was slightly getting the better of it. He obviously then got the knockdown as well, where he clocked him clean. Roach stumbled back and he touched down with one of his gloves. You know, he wasn't super hurt, but also from there on out, he actually, well, for a period of time anyway, I think it was until about round 5 or 6, I certainly noticed that Roach wasn't using his legs as much. He opted to sit in the pocket. And it's funny because I know he can box like that because I saw him do it against Gervonta Davis. But realistically, I don't know why you would do that with Cruz unless you were being forced to, because it's the only way he could really go about this fight that would give Cruz any kind of chance, because, as I say, Roach is a counterpuncher. Roach has good legs, and Roach can move around the ring, use his supreme reach, and just pick him off on the way in. And as the fight developed, that's what I saw happening. Cruz got deducted a point for low blows. And I thought it was deserved. I did think he was hitting him low a relatively large amount, probably a little bit more than what the referee actually called as well. But he got a couple of warnings, he got a point deducted, that leveled up the knockdown, and from there on out, it was pretty much all Lamont Roach for me. I'll pull up my scorecard now just so I can remember the exact flow of things. But there you go. So I scored the first 5 rounds all for Cruz, including the knockdown in round 3. And then I remember at the end of round 5 was when I noticed that Roach had got his legs back and that he was moving a little bit again. He was starting to counter a little bit better again. And then from then on, 6 through to 12, I scored every single round plus a points deduction for Lamont Roach. I finally scored the fight 114-112. However, the judges did not agree. They scored it, I think it was, one judge had it 115-111 for Cruz, which I simply cannot see. I don't know how you score at 115-111 for Cruz. Cruz was good. He was competitive and he was in the fight, but I just think I'd really struggle to score it from 115, 111. I really do. The other two judges had it 113, 113. And as you can see from my scorecard, I could see how it could have been a draw. I think round 12 was the one where I looked at it and I went, yeah, maybe I could have given that to Cruz. There was maybe another round in there somewhere where I possibly could have given it to Cruz. But overall, I did score at 114, 112 for Lamont Roach. The fact I did tells you there's a scenario in which, probably a likely scenario, because I did a poll at the end of it. I think most people thought Roach won, then they had draw, then they had Cruz. So Cruz winning was the least likely result, according to my viewers. And the reason I say, is there anyone more unlucky than Lamont Roach, is because he's now had back-to-back controversial draws. I don't think this one was as bad as the Gervonta Davis one, because I felt it was pretty clear that he won that fight, to be honest with you. I felt he won it on points without that knockdown, but then with the knockdown, he clearly won it for me. And Gervonta Davis was still gifted a draw in that scenario. And again here, Isaac Cruz, he gets the draw. I can't argue too hard with it, but also if you're Lamont Roach, as I say, some people had it even wider for Roach than I did. And the only way I'd probably go would be maybe slightly wider for Roach. I struggle to see Cruz having it any closer than a draw. I think 113, 113 a draw. The 115, 111 card was wild. All this is to say that, yeah, the guy can count himself extremely unlucky, but look, his stock's gone up. He's been in there with some top names now. And arguably, and most likely, in my opinion, he won both of them. He's going to be feeling unlucky. He's going to be feeling hard done by. And obviously, you can be frustrated because forevermore, the record books will show that you've drawn your last two fights. When in reality, if he was the A side, if he was a bigger draw, then potentially judges might have psychologically sided with him. They might have gone for him a little bit more in some of those swing rounds. I suppose the most interesting thing is what I think both men can do moving forward at 140. With Isaac Cruz, he is what he is. He's that come forward, aggressive, front foot, pressure style of fighter. If you're not defensively very astute, if you're not a good counterpuncher, you will struggle with him. And even here, Lamont Roach, as I say, the first half of the fight, he took a bit of time to get used to it fully. I mean, he was finding him in moments, in pockets, but not consistently. And then as the fight went on, he loosened up a bit. He was pinging the jab more, and he was really doing well. But yeah, Isaac Cruz is what he is. There'll be some styles he'll beat very comfortably, and there'll be some guys that no matter what, he just will always struggle with. And when I look at that 140-pound division, I think at the very least, Roach is still in an incredibly strong position moving forward. I actually think that what he showed me in this fight tonight was that whilst I think Cruz actually was nice for him stylistically, he's horrible for anyone, but also that was the best style I think that Roach could really ask for, given that he does like to counterpunch and is a good mover and is much longer than a Pitbull Cruz is. I do think he can compete at that highest level at 140 now, having seen that performance. Arguably, he should have started a bit quicker, but at the end of the day, that would be taking away what Cruz is able to do. It's not straightforward when you get in there with him. We're all waiting to see what's going on with Subriel Matias and Dalton Smith. I have no idea. Obviously, Matias failing that PED test recently. Don't know if that fight's going to happen or not. Teofimo Lopez is obviously going to be facing off against Shakur Stevenson for that WBO belt. So I'm sure that Roach or Cruz would want the winner of that fight and possibly the loser. I think that there's going to be options for both of them. They've both come out of it with their records intact to a degree. But for Lamont Roach, you're going to feel that sense of disappointment. He was so close to getting back-to-back wins at elite world level, really. I mean, Gervonta Davis, elite world level. Pitbull Cruz, we know he's limited to a certain point. He's a world level fighter. I don't think he's elite. But to go in there and beat him comfortably or beat him well, which is what I think Lamont Roach could have done. I still think he could have made it easier than he did on the night, to be honest. I do think he started too slowly. But he will be sat there feeling, that's damn unlucky what I've just been through. I was close to some spectacular victories, and they've been taken away from me from a hair's margin. Tiny margins have meant that his career isn't quite where it could have been. And the other thing to consider is he's 30 years old now, so he's not a spring chicken. He really needs to get a move on if he's going to go and become like a world level fighter who's making really good money. But look, talent and skill wise, as I say, for me, he's won those two fights, so he's right up there. He's a fantastic fighter, and he will be feeling, I'm sure, extremely hard done by. But to finish on a positive note, they're both in the mix at 140, and there is about to be a mega fight at 140. Those guys may end up at 147, but if they don't, they're going to be in the mix in what is now a good division. So that is exciting for both of them. I think Lamont Roach can take many positives from this result because I still think that most people will have him winning. I've not been on Twitter or whatever yet to have a look, but I think most people felt that Roach won that fight. I wasn't seeing too many people thinking that Isaac Cruz should have got the decision there. And as I say, close fight, but you could see from my scorecard, I thought that Roach should have taken it. So yeah, the guy can consider himself one of the most unlucky men in world boxing today. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, slam a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Make sure you get in the comments. I'd love to know who you actually think won this fight. In terms of what's coming up next for us in the schedule, the main thing is going to be Joshua against Paul, which is mad to say. But we will be covering that in due course. It's only less than a couple of weeks away now, so I'm sure there'll be lots of things to talk about. And guys, I'm just glad you're all with me on this journey as ever. It's been a tough week. I'm very, very tired. I'm so excited to have a break. But as long as there's good content to be made, I will be there pushing it out for you guys. Thank you so much for watching this all the way to the end. And as I always say, on to the next one.